Pittsburgh Steeler fans, hey, what is up? My name is Bryan Anthony Davis from Behind the Steel Curtain.com. Alongside me today are very good friends of mine. We are not the triumphant trio. That's Jeff Hartman, Dave Schofield, and myself. We are kind of the three stooges of Steelers, and we don't mind saying that. Maybe not Shannon, but Tony and I are definitely, we definitely relate to that. So, gentlemen, how are you? What is going on? Shannon White, good evening, my friend.
Hey, good to see you. Glad to be here.
Tony, what is going on? AFC Championship game. Are you hungover from those games?
Yeah, I thought they were good games. I went right down to the wire. I mean, NFL really made up from after that or for that wild card weekend, didn't it? These last 2 weeks of games, they were great.
Absolutely. John is the first one in, and it is Monday, so it is the hangover. And, it doesn't matter if the Steelers aren't in the AFC Championship game. We've got plenty of AFC Championships to talk about. And we're going to do that. We're going to talk about Steelers in the AFC Championship game. But we would be remiss if we did not talk about the playoffs here in 2022 for the 2021 season. And what a great, I don't think there was really a bad game in the mix. Oh yeah, there was. It was called the Steelers and Chiefs. But so yeah, the first weekend wasn't amazing. Second and third weekends were great. We hope that carries over to the Super Bowl. So first thing first, we know the combatants. It's the Los Angeles Rams, who have never won a Super Bowl. Now, the St. Louis Rams have won a Super Bowl, but the LA Rams have not. They are 0-2. The St. Louis Rams are 1-1. So this is an opportunity for the Rams to win their first Super Bowl. And Tony Defeo, you came up with a claim, and a lot of people went after you on this, and that it's okay to root for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I know Shannon was completely against you on this. I was mostly against you on this. And I want to talk about that because I respect that opinion. And I want to know how you feel now that the AFC Championship game is over and how you reacted the whole time watching this game.
I just thought the Chiefs were going to, the way they started out, I thought they were going to just kill them. And they were killing them 21-3. And then, I don't know, the Bengals scored right before the half. And that's and then the Chiefs failed to, I think they made a huge mistake at the end of the first half on that 4th and goal at the 5. They should have kicked the field goal. And I think that shifted the momentum and whatever adjustments the Bengals made on defense. I mean, Mahomes, like somebody said, it looked like his brother replaced him at halftime. Jackson Mahomes.
That guy is a first-class crap bag, by the way. Jackson Mahomes.
Right.
And the girl's not that much better. The fiance. And I don't like to say that about women, but my goodness, she's rough to watch on Instagram and social media. So I just got to tell you, I agree with you on that, and I'm going to get back to that. So go ahead, Tony.
No, I just think it showed a lot of character. The way the Bengals, a team that's never been anywhere. I mean, as far as this particular addition, they're all young and young quarterback, young coach, young everything, and for them to hang in there the way they did against this juggernaut, the Chiefs, and I just thought the Chiefs were going to win it up until the very end, and for them to hang in there and lose the coin toss in overtime. And for the defense to stand up and make a stop, and who was the guy? Was it Eli Apple or whoever had that interception? I mean, that was huge. And yeah, so it was. I just thought it was. If you can, like I said last week, if you can remove yourself from the whole AFC North thing, it's a great story. This team, had done nothing for 30 years, the laughingstock of the league, no playoff wins, and all of a sudden you draft Joe Burrow, and within 2 years you're in a Super Bowl. It's the way the NFL would script it if things were scripted, I think.
You're correct. There is no way that I'm going to dispute with you the fact that it's a great story, because it is a great story. I love this story. It's the little brother rising up, and who was it Tony Romo that said underdogs no more like 17 times?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he kept shouting that, and it's like, yeah, the Bengals are going to win, and there's still time left on the clock. The Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. I'm like, stop that! Don't you remember 13 seconds? I mean, you know,
when the what was it, Mixon? I guess it was Mixon that it looked like maybe he might have pulled a Plexico Burress there at the end. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna review this, and they're gonna say that he wasn't down. That would be the most Bengals thing ever. So I was when Tony Romo was saying that, like, you better just. You're gonna. This franchise is so cursed. The Bengals, you know.
So yeah, I definitely agree with that, Shannon. So, what were your thoughts throughout this game?
Well, first off, Tony said the laughing stock of the league, and I just got a message from the Browns, and they said, "Hold my beer," because the Bengals have been to 2 Super Bowls. They might not have won one, but they've been to 2. And the Browns would have been happy probably with to been to 1. But anyway, that first half, it just looked like a mismatch. But just like in that first game, see, I think that first game was so important to yesterday's game because the Bengals had the belief that we could come back and catch up and win this game because they'd done it. And I think in the back of the Chiefs' minds, they're like, we got to keep scoring. And they put more pressure on themselves that was actually there. I think that's why Reed went for it. Because when he went for it with 9 seconds, you know, and they still had the 1 timeout, they did a quick play. Mahomes stood away and left him, I think, with 5 seconds. You think there you're just going to go ahead and kick it and not risk, you know, something like what happening. To me, it showed a little bit of desperation for a team that was winning that big. You know, the only time the Bengals scored was because P-Line got loose, you know, and rumbled there for 35 yards. You know, he broke a couple of tackles, but up to that point, Chiefs had dominated. So, but you watch that game and you're just like, Burrows is the real deal. And I can never root for the Bengals. I never will. So I'll never be able to like him. It's kind of like admitting that Tom Brady was a great quarterback. I can't like him because he was the Patriots. But the guy, you know, you watch him, he's walking in. They showed him going in the tunnel at halftime. And he was just had his hands in his pocket, just cool as a cucumber. He wasn't trying to rally the troops or anything because that's not what he does. But he is super cool. They call him Joe Cool for a reason. And so the way they kept going through my head as that game was getting closer and closer, and the Bengals got the lead, is he's going to be a pain in the Steelers' butt for a long time, I'm afraid.
Yeah, he definitely will be. So let me tell you what I experienced through this. And I'm going to bring up 2 parts of pop culture, and they have a common theme. They both deal with Rocky, and they both deal with Hulk Hogan. Let me explain that. As you know, in Rocky 3, Hulk Hogan played Thunder Lips, and he fought Rocky. But the moment I'm talking about is in Rocky 4, when all of a sudden, towards the end of that fight against Ivan Drago, the crowd is going, Drago, Drago, Drago. So that's was my first feeling. Not that I was doing that. I was not chanting for the Bengals, but I was noticing my feelings changing a little bit here. The other thing that I noticed was here we bring back Hulk Hogan again. And it's going to be Toronto, Canada, in the Sky Dome or whatever it was called back then. And it was The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, against the evil Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And then in the middle of that whole thing, the fans in Canada were cheering for Hogan, and they weren't supposed to. And so the WWE decided at that very moment that they were going to swap things around. And they were going to... Hogan was still going to lose that match. But they were going to have him do a face turn right there with The Rock and have his buddies come out and attack him. Because the crowd did what they weren't supposed to do. And they started cheering for Hogan there. And that became a little bit of a renaissance for him. He went back to the red and yellow, and that's just nothing we need to talk about now. But I was thinking about those two things. So I'm definitely thinking of Rocky, whether it be Dwayne The Rock, whether it be Hogan, whether it be Stallone. I don't know. Byron Johnson is actually watching Rocky 3 right now. That is some great multitasking. The Hangover and Rocky all at the same time. I love it. So the reason I'm saying this, because I went in, I turned the game on a little bit late, and I looked at it. It's like 14-3, or I mean, it was in the next thing you know, it's 21-3, and I'm like, all right, they're just true colors just shine through here. And then I was thinking, well, they do know how to come back, but I'm thinking that it's fine, and I'm rooting for the Chiefs, which I hate the Chiefs because I hate Tyreek Hill, I hate Travis Kelce, I don't hate Patrick Mahomes yet, but his significant other and his brother, like we talked before, are start making me do that. I don't like the fans of Kansas City at all. Last year I got a message from one of our listeners or viewers that talked about his experience at Kansas City. He goes, those fans are actually really awful. They took food from me. They pushed my girlfriend because she was wearing Steelers stuff and all that stuff, and they said, and nobody does anything about it. So I had never heard that kind of stuff. Now that's not his sister, Jared Devil. That's his fiance, Brittany Matthews, I believe. So yeah, that's not his sis. They're not married yet. And if you know what, I hope he watches some stuff and looks at social media and says, is this worth it? But anyways, so I was rooting for them because of all the scars I have from Vontaze Burfict, from TJ Houshmandzadeh, from all of those days, and how much I hate them, the Cincinnati Bengals. And then it's kind of occurred to me, like, I really like Joe Burrow. I respect Joe Burrow. I love what this guy. I've been saying that. I've been saying that for a year and a half now.
Yeah.
How much I like this guy. I just hate that he's wearing black and orange. And so I'm watching this game unfold. It's getting down to halftime. Here's the Chiefs driving again. They're going to make it 28-3 maybe at this point. Or was it 28-10? Okay.
It would have been, yeah.
So they're looking to just completely put this game away right before the half. And they got cocky, and they got stupid, and they got greedy. And I got mad. And I remember I didn't type it on Twitter. I just said to my family that weren't really paying attention to me, I'm like, they're going to regret this. If this game comes down to a field goal, they are going to regret this move, because that's awful football. And the reason I know you're trying to go for the jugular, but you take those 3 points. You don't. I know they didn't take them off the board, but that's a free 3 points, and every 3 points counts, especially in the new NFL. When I'm saying the new NFL, I believe the last 2 or 3 years is a new NFL. This is something that I don't recognize. So I was really annoyed that they did that, but I'm still rooting for them. Then midway, I see them starting to come back, and I see Kansas City doing things that I just feel is Bush League. And then I'm watching Cincinnati. I'm like, you know what? They deserve this. And I thought about two teams. I thought about the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. And I realized that if this was the Baltimore Ravens, there's no way I'd switch. I have some respect for the Ravens. Now, I have no respect for the Cleveland Browns. If it was the Cleveland Browns, there'd be no way. But watching the Bengals and watching how they completely overturned things, and the fact that Mike Hilton's on that team, and I really love Mike Hilton, and that's a situation, seeing him go over there doesn't make him a traitor. The Steelers didn't want him. Just like Alejandro Villanueva, the Steelers didn't want him. And that, when I say they didn't want him, they couldn't afford him, and they did not make offers to him. So they made a business decision, and he wasn't a part of the business decision. I understand that, and I agree. so I'm watching them play, and then it looks like Kansas City is just going to win this game. It looks like, there's a couple minutes left. I'm like, they're going to do it. And when that game was over, when the final score, I realized I'm not mad. Because I think watching human beings on that field, I think the better human beings seemed to be in white yesterday, wearing white jerseys with black tiger stripes, which those white jerseys are a lot better looking than what they were in the past. Just taking the orange out of it kind of made it a little bit better. So it's still, I'm not rooting for them in the Super Bowl, but I realized I wasn't mad. So watching that game, I thought they put together a great plan, and I felt pretty good for them. And I realized that then I'm seeing all these memes like, thank you, Joe Burrow, for knocking out Patrick's brother, Jackson, and Brittany. And everybody's saying these guys are heroes because we don't have to deal with these two. And I mean, if you would see them, oh my gosh. I mean, last week with the champagne spraying it on the crowd and just screaming. And then Jackson Mahomes, I'm not forgiving him for dancing on Sean Taylor's number in Washington. Just thought that was kind of doing a really bad dance on his number. I kind of thought, I just don't like them. But then I'm watching, and like America loves the Bengals right now. If you show one of those maps, orange and blue, there's going to be so much, most of the country is going to have orange on that map because they're a feel-good story and everybody loves them. But then it hit me again after the game, and today I'm looking at a fan of the Bengals because I do not respect the Bengals fans. I might respect the new Bengals right now, but I will never. They're some of the dumbest fans in football. They are some of the most clueless fans in football. I love the Ask a Loser. And then I see some idiot dancing around at his party he might have been about 18. It might have been younger than 18. I don't know. But he had a Bengals helmet on, and he put his head through the drywall.
Oh, jeez.
With a helmet. And he was dancing around like, yeah. I'm like, the dad in me went crazy, especially since I just put up drywall last year. I'm like, all right, here we go. Then I read something just about 2 hours ago. The Bengals have canceled school on February 14th in anticipation of their first Super Bowl victory. They've already canceled school. Not the Bengals, the Cincinnati has, excuse me. So we are going to, as much as we love them right now, those fans are going to make you hate them again. I'm telling you that. And one of the biggest haters, one of our BTSC favorites here, Mark Davison, hates the Bengals. And he's in Australia, so he doesn't have to deal with black and orange dancing around a whole lot. But I will just say this, that give it 2 weeks, and you're going to hate them because of their fans. They're going to be annoying again. But let them have this moment because they don't come very often. Tony, Shannon, thoughts?
Well, I mean, you might be right about hating the Bengals sooner rather if they're as good as I think they can be. I mean, Mark Davis might be ahead of the curve. He's a millennial. He has that millennial intuition, the millennial hate, and we're all like Gen Xers hating the Ravens and the Browns. So, yeah, the Bengals might. A few years ago we all loved the Chiefs. Now we hate them. So, if the Bengals are that good, along with their fans, we might hate them again. I'm sure I'm going to hate them again if they keep beating up the Steelers every year. I don't care how charismatic Joe Burrow is.
I mean, and that's the bottom line of the whole thing. That's it. And if we're looking at a plus here, if you're a Steeler fan, you did get something out of it. Not that it really matters because of this. Joe Mixon, and Jamar Chase have made it so that we have 2 more Steeler Pro Bowlers now, Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson. Not that that really matters, but when I'm trying to get through that game next week, I just doubled my Steelers from 2 to 4. So I'm I'm kind of happy about that. Shannon, your final thoughts on that AFC Championship game?
I'll forever despise the Bengals. It's already every celebrity, talk show host, ESPN personality, Fox person. It doesn't matter who. They're all over the bandwagon. They've loved the Bengals since 1970 something, and it's just sickening. I'm already tired of hearing about them. Like I said, I respect the heck out of their talent. Can't stand the fans. So I could never root for them in any way, shape, form, fashion. As much as I don't particularly care for Kelsey either, and Hill because of some of his off the field stuff. But again, I think that the Chiefs tried to stay aggressive. Reed realized what had happened last time, and I think that's why he made a bad decision. If it works, it's great. Kind of like we talked about when the Steelers tried the fake field goal and Boswell got killed this year. It always is a great call if it works. It's a terrible call when it don't. But the Bengals are the thing that concerns me in the Super Bowl is the Rams they've built their team different. And I know we're going to get into that in a minute, but most superstar teams, that are put together don't work. But the Rams had already had a few superstars like Aaron Donald. They realize his age, and so they start putting a piece here and a piece there, in the offseason, then one during the season. They've did that the last couple of years. They have no draft picks basically till 2024, but they definitely did they put together a solid team. Nobody wanted to touch OBJ, but he goes in there and plays wide receiver 2 to Cup and plays with Stafford, and he looks like he did when he was with the Giants before, Peyton Manning went out. So I'm a little bit concerned because this team, it's hard to put the Bengals away, and they have so much talent. I'm afraid that, even though I think the Rams got the better team, it definitely is concerning.
I want to say this because I'm reading a lot of it and I'm hearing it from both of you. And I want to agree and disagree with everybody. I think that they are going to be a very good team. But I don't think they're going to have everybody's number, and I don't think this is a dynasty. I don't think that they're in the Super Bowl next year. In fact, I don't even think they win the division next year. Because that's a possibility with all those things. Because remember 3 years ago when the Baltimore Ravens had a rookie named Lamar Jackson, and everybody said, well, he's going to be, we're going to have to deal with him for a long time. And now we want to deal with him because the Steelers match up well with him. And everybody was saying that, the Ravens are going to win 5 or 6 straight. That's how many they're going to win. They're going to win a couple Super Bowls because of Lamar and all of this. So all I'm going to say is I caution everybody. And I say, they're not necessarily, this is not necessarily going to be a dynasty because dynasties aren't the same anymore. The Chiefs had a little mini dynasty because they looked like they were going to win 3 straight AFC championships, but they actually won 1 Super Bowl in that entire time. So, yeah, and I agree, Jerry. You can't compare Burrow and Lamar. All I'm saying is that the way teams build and the way teams turn around, that we don't need to crown them just yet. So this all leads into the Steelers for me. And we're going to talk about kind of what Shannon just said as far as the AFC Championship goes. We're not going to talk about a lot about the NFC Championship. But this is going to lead into the Steelers. Why should the Steelers give up? They've lost a couple games straight to this team, but they can get back and they can start competing with this team again if they put this whole thing back together again. So I think it's one of those things. How should the Steelers build this team? Should they build it? And I hate to use the Cincinnati Bengals as a model, and I've said that for the last month now, but now I'm kind of saying that, use them as a model and do that type of thing, because I think that would benefit the Steelers so much more to work on the offensive line, draft a couple young guys, bring a couple guys in via free agency, versus the Los Angeles Rams, who brought everybody in from the outside, and they don't have draft picks, and they made a deal with the devil, and hopefully he's not going to cash in right away. So I'll ask you this question since you brought it up, Shannon. The Los Angeles Rams or the Cincinnati Bengals, who would you want to model the Steelers after going into free agency and going into the draft more?
Well, there's no set way to build a team, but the Rams, like I said, I feel like they felt like they had to do it the way they did because of Aaron Donald. They're building around him. He's the foundation of that defense. He's the best defensive lineman in the game. He's kind of like the mean Joe Green for that team. And their whole defense plays off him. If they didn't get the quarterback, it's Stafford. They knew Goff wasn't the answer. If they didn't get that wide receiver 2 in OBJ, if they didn't get another pass rusher like they did in Von Miller, you kind of see what they were doing. They were close, but they had a few holes and they filled them through free agency or trades. The Steelers have too many holes. They're not close. Hayward's a little older than Donald, and he's a great defensive player, but Watt is who everything plays through for the Steelers. But if the Steelers don't want to waste Watt his prime years, they're going to have to look at doing something quickly like the Rams did. Or by time, because you have like a 4 or 5 year window in the modern free agency and with the cap, you have about a 4 or 5 year window to be at your top, especially if you have a young quarterback on the rookie deal. Then you look at the Bengals and they have that. To me, the Steelers need to acquire draft picks and build the team through the draft, fill in certain spots with, proven free agents, especially cornerback, because I trust them to pick up a free agent cornerback more than I do draft one. And, hopefully in this next 3 or 4 years, find your next franchise guy. There's a couple of guys in the draft I've talked about, Ritter and Carson Strong from Nevada. Both of them guys, they're talking about going in the second round. If you could get one of them and have them set, let Mason Rudolph or bring in an outside guy, like I said, a Mariota to be the bridge guy, and then let them set for a year and learn. It's all about timing. You got to get the timing to come together anymore. Because again, with your cap space and it's too hard to keep these teams together for much longer than that. So there is no set pattern, but this offseason, I'm mainly wanting to see them bring in talent everywhere, but especially on the offensive line and in the cornerbacks.
Tony, what's your thoughts on that?
I agree with Shannon mostly. I think you want to continue to this team's already second youngest. I think last year was the second youngest in the NFL. I think you want to continue to build that way. You had 4 rookies starting on offense. Trey Norwood on defense contributed a lot as a youngster. I think you want to keep doing that. As far as the cap space, they have a lot of cap space, and that's nice. But you can utilize that to bring in a couple of key players to address some key positions like cornerback, like offensive line. As far as the quarterback is concerned, I mean, if there's a lot of guys in this class, I know a lot of people aren't high on this draft class as far as quarterbacks, and I get it. But if you're at 20 and you think you might have if you believe in one of the guys that's there, why not pull the trigger this year and see what happens? I mean, you just never know. I mean, we were talking about Sam Darnold a few years ago, like he was the next great thing, and where's he at now? So you just never know with these quarterbacks. And Patrick Mahomes, there was concerns about his the air raid offense at I forget where he played, but the air raid offense. So and now look at him. So you just never know. So if you think you have a chance to draft a guy and you like him at 20, whether it's Sam Howell, Pickett, whoever. I mean, I don't know. There's so many. The guy from Ole Miss, just do it and see what happens, because the quicker you find you get started on the next guy and trying to develop him, the quicker you might get to that point, like Shannon was talking about, where you have a 4 or 5 year window to do some damage.
Texas Tech, I think, is the college that you were looking for there with Mahomes. So here's my thoughts on this, and I'll try to be brief because I wasn't brief earlier. So I'm just going to go ahead and say this. When you're looking at the what model to follow, Cincinnati or LA, it's hard to completely follow both of them. And the reason why is you're not as bad off as the Bengals were, and you're not as good off as the Rams were. So you're somewhere in between. So if you take a little bit from both, go ahead. That's fine. You know, Rams did a lot in free agency. The trades that they made, they gave up a lot of stuff. You don't necessarily want to go that high and get rid of all of your draft capital. But if you could bring in the right guys, the Rams are not in bad shape right now because they're in the Super Bowl. Yes, I said earlier it was a deal with the devil that they made. But you just want to be smart with those trades. And it seems like they were smart with the trades that they made. My question for you is, what do the Rams need to make this sacrificing the future for now pay off? Is it 2 Super Bowl championships? Is it 3? Or is 1 enough? Tony?
I mean, I'd say with all the first round picks they traded away, I'd say 2. But I mean, it's hard enough just to get 1. I think, if you get 1, really that might be enough as far as shaping so many legacies, Aaron Donald, even Matt Stafford. So I'd say if you get at least 1, you were in the Super Bowl a few years ago. So I think, you're if you get 1 and you remain competitive for a few more years after that, I think that'll be a good payoff.
Shannon.
It's so hard to win. It's hard to win a playoff game. There's guys that'll go their whole career not win a playoff game, much less a Super Bowl. If you could get to 1, you got to win, because there's no guarantee you'll ever be back. Rodgers, just look at him. They've had some of the best teams in the NFC record-wise. He's got 1. And again, like I said, there's been a lot of greats that have none. So Stafford, this is an opportunity he could have never dreamed about in Detroit. And I'm sure it's like it's almost fantasy-like to him. He probably pinches himself every day. And you have to you got to root for the guy. I mean, he's got an opportunity. Aaron Donald has an opportunity. They got Jalen Ramsey. The way they built it to win, and to win this year. So I think if they win, it was all worth it. Just one. I think it'll all be worth it. Kind of like the Marlins and Diamondbacks and teams in baseball. They build up a team good enough to win. They win, and then they have to demolish it all. But they did win. Something that Pirates ain't even come close to in forever. Yeah. So you got to give them credit. If the main thing is people don't comprehend how hard it is to win 1. So if the Rams can win this, it'll all be worth it, in my opinion.
If they don't, it's
a failure.
It's an epic failure.
Yes.
Because if they don't get anything out of that, I think they're in the possibility of crippling themselves, and then they're going to have to follow the Bengals model, if with getting rid of all of this talent. And I was looking at something today, and this is a model that the Steelers followed back in the 1960s. They traded away 5 or 6 first-round draft picks. They traded away, they started in the late 50s doing this. They even traded away the rights to Dick Butkus, basically.
Yeah.
They traded that draft pick for nothing. So, I mean, of course, the Rams are a lot smarter than what the Steelers were back then. And it's a completely, I mean, you just don't do stuff like that anymore. But yeah, the Rams are definitely, they definitely have to win for this to pay off. So a lot of people are agreeing one Super Bowl is enough. I want to bring up Tate Boys, one of our, he fills in, and we're hoping to hear a whole lot more from Tate Boys. I just want to bring this up because we were talking about building, and there's a lot of talk about the quarterback position, and we're not going to go way into the QB position, but do we honestly think anyone in this year's draft is better than Haskins? I don't think so, says Tate Boys. Only quarterback I give draft capital up for is Watson, being Deshaun Watson. Free agent quarterbacks I look at is Trubisky or Mariota. I'm kind of not looking at giving up draft capital for Deshaun, but I do agree on Trubisky and Mariota, because my formula is, and a lot of people are saying this too, take care of the offensive line. A lot of people want to bring Munchak back. I'm not even going to comment on that right now, because Munchak with last year's line would have done nothing. So they would have to bring in the talent with them, and that could be okay. Yeah. So, but you start with bringing in offensive line through free agency, through the draft, be smart with it, and worry about the quarterback if you don't think that you've got first round talent and you've got the savior. Don't do Artie Burns. Don't pick a guy just because he has a CB in front of him. Don't pick a guy that has a QB in front of him. They had their heart set on William Jackson III, and the Bengals took him. The next thing you know, the Steelers are on the clock, and they're like, well, we'll get Artie, and they could have done something else, or they could have just looked at a guy that went 38, Xavier Howard, who everybody would love to go now. But they took the guy next in line on the list, is what they did. And I thought that was one of the very few misses for Kevin Colbert and company, and Colbert and Tomlin and company when it comes to drafting. So I just want to say that I love the idea of Mariota, because, and now somebody mentioned Trubisky, and I already saw somebody say hard pass, and you'll probably say the same thing about Mariota. Here's the thing. You're not going to get sexy right away. Ben Roethlisberger's not going to walk through that door in this draft, or he's not going to just walk in that door. You're not going to bring a great quarterback in like an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson unless you give a whole lot of draft capital up, and that's really tough. So what I'm saying is, get a guy that could hold the fort down, fix everything else, and then get the right quarterback. And you could do that. You could work on that. You could get the guy and have a guy like Mariota that would be great in the system that is Matt Canada, and he's cheap. He was $3.5 million last year. So any name that we bring in, it's going to be all like, it's going to be exactly like the Dwayne Haskins conversation we had a year ago. And that conversation was, oh, this guy stinks. Why are we bringing him in? Well, you have to bring bodies in. You've got to do some experiments. Some of these guys are going to work. And remember, nobody was loving Ryan Tannehill, but they sure loved him a whole lot more when the Dolphins let him walk, and he walked into Tennessee and really helped that franchise out. Did they win with him? Not yet. Will they? Maybe not. Let's bring up Tyler W. here. Reminder, Munchak's line had 2 first-rounders on it. Thank you for the $2 there. Yeah, he did.
And the second.
Yeah, they had a second on there. And then they got a gift in an undrafted free agent. So, definitely those are some things to think about there. So, gentlemen, I said we were going to talk very little about the NFC Championship game. I just want to bring up the fact I was rooting for the Rams the whole way. Really liked that San Francisco team. And when you're watching that San Francisco team play, and I saw it pop up on Twitter and a lot of comments, that this is the way that Mike Tomlin wanted the Steelers to play. And it seemed like that system is a lot of what Matt Canada is trying to run. Jeffrey Benedict had a great article about should the Bills fired Matt Canada yet last week, comparing the Bills game plan that was actually pretty good and put up a lot of points in that Kansas City game. So a lot of people are upset. I even saw one person say, I'm done with the Steelers because they're bringing back Canada for another year. But all I'm saying is if you put the right guys around them, you can see what could happen. And so that's pretty exciting to me. But there's a chance, and he needs 4 to 6 weeks to heal that thumb, but he's not playing. That's Jimmy Garoppolo. You might see a guy like that walk through the door. I don't know if he fits the Canada system, but I saw him move around pretty good yesterday. I love that system that they're running in San Francisco. I really had a lot of respect for that team yesterday. I didn't like the headbutt from Fred Warner. I will say that right now. But I respected the way that team played in that game, and they gave the Rams a rough time. And the Rams, I thought, were the better team going in, but for most of that game, San Francisco looked like the better team, and Cooper Kupp and that defense finally able to rise up at the end. But the biggest reason, and this is just petty of me, the reason I was rooting against the 49ers, and it's not for Shannon's reason, because I know Shannon's reason is something that I don't completely agree with, but a lot of Steeler fans do, is I don't care if the 49ers get to 6, because the Steelers are the ones that need to get to 7 before anybody else gets to 6. So that's not the reason I was rooting against them. I was rooting against them mostly because I like the Rams, but I didn't want to see Bengals 49ers 3. I hate repeats. So gentlemen, any final quick thoughts on that game?
I like both teams. I like the 49ers and the Rams. I like the way they both play football, and I like the 49ers system a lot. And if that's anything like what Matt Canada can run with a quarterback, the kind of quarterback that he would need to run it, then I think there's a lot of exciting offense ahead, because I think Claypool and Johnson and Harris and Freiermuth, they're good talents. So they just need to find if you can get a Jimmy Garoppolo type quarterback. If that's your bridge guy, because I think the 49ers, they have to go with Trey Lance. They drafted him 3rd overall last year. They're not going to let him sit for very long. So if you can get a guy like that for a year or two, I could think of worse quarterbacks to bring in here. I'll tell you that.
So Shannon, I was going to ask you your thoughts, but I'm going to change it around a little bit. I'm going to bring up Tate Boys, who gives us $1.99, and I really appreciate that. And this is something I was thinking about in my car today. And I want to ask you this, because I know you're very high on Deebo Samuel. And I think I think he won more than anything yesterday. I think the football world fell in love with Deebo in that loss yesterday. Would you agree to that? So Tate Boys ask, go ahead.
I was going to say that I love Deebo from when he came out in the draft. There is nobody else that compares to him. He's Antoine Bolden. If Antoine Bolden had more speed, he's a wide receiver, a legit wide receiver with great hands, who runs like a running back. They run him out of that backfield. He is truly what Bell wanted to be paid like. That's what Deebo is. But what I love so much is his effort. He gave his heart. He played his heart out yesterday. he was over there sobbing on the sidelines because he gave everything he had, took that huge hit, kept going, but that was a great example of what everybody keeps saying the Steelers could be like the Niners. But what was the Niners' big weakness? It's Jimmy G. Garoppolo was their weakness. That's where the Rams had a huge advantage with Stafford. And you could build a team like the 49ers, but the 49ers have a great offensive mind and head coach. They've got Fred Warner, who might be, him and Leonard for the Colts, so they're probably the two best middle linebackers in football. They've got a great pass rush. They've got everything, but they don't have the quarterback. That's why they picked up Lance in the first place. Now, will Lance pan out and be that? We don't know yet. He didn't really have a fair shot. But Jimmy G is the answer. And, if we're going to have that kind of bridge quarterback, just let Rudolph do it. Because, you could still win 5-6 games, get a better draft pick next year. I don't want to see him. If they're going to get a bridge guy and still try to win 8, 9, 10 games, I would rather see, like we said, a Mariota or a Trubisky. But we'll see what happens there. But I just think that Debo was special. Debo Samuels is why they got that far, because of how good he is and that young running back. And I can't think of his name now.
Elijah Mitchell.
Yes. Andrew Wilbar last draft cycle was tooting him, saying he was in the top 3 running backs in the draft. And, nobody was listening, but he looks really, really good. So Andrew really nailed that. But if you looked at that game, the weakness and why I didn't have any faith in him pulling that game out is because of Jimmy G.
Fantastic. I absolutely love it. I will say this though, is and I love Andrew Wilbar, but he's got about 20 prospects that he loves. That's like me asking 17 girls to the prom, hoping one's gonna answer. So I love the guy. But real quick, just in 30 seconds, could Juju play a Debo role in Canada's offense?
No.
Okay.
He's a different player, and he doesn't have as much speed and quickness, that running back balance that Debo has. I love Juju, but they're not the same player.
All right, absolutely. That's great. So we're going to be talking about these two teams next week as well, and we are going to be talking about the Steelers. We still need to mix in the Steelers, and we had a lot of good Steeler talk today. So as it is the offseason, and we just had the AFC Championship game, what I'd like to do is have you guys talk about, and we're going to go pretty rapid fire on this since we only have a few minutes left. What is your best AFC Championship moment for the Steelers? It could be the entire game, or it could be a moment, and your worst. So, Tony, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, the best was the 95, the Colts. I mean, when I at the end there, when I realized that they were going, when that Hail Mary was deemed incomplete, and I slid on my stomach in the kitchen, and my uncle told me to grow up. That was my favorite moment. The least favorite, I mean, I'll deviate because I have so many. But my least favorite was that 0-1 to the Patriots, because I just thought they were gonna kill them. Who could have saw that Patriots dynasty coming, right? So they were like 13, 14-point favorites. I mean, it was foregone conclusion that they were going to win that game, and special teams killed them that day. So that was my least favorite.
I was in the stands for that, and the only good part of that day was Sheryl Crow singing at halftime.
Amen to that.
So, Shannon White, what are your top moments and your worst moments in the AFC Championship game?
Top moment, I would have to say the win in Denver, that magical run, because that's right when you knew, Ben had made a promise to bet us, but that's when I really started to believe that it could be something magical there. And the worst was, I think it was 94, where they lost to the Chargers at home in
Alfred
Pittsburgh.
Papuna.
And yeah, and Junior Seau just played the game, one of the best defensive games I ever seen a guy play. He was so dominant that game that I had to respect it. You know, it was a Jack Lambert type performance. But when that final pass was knocked down, that was probably as disappointed as I've ever been. In recent memory, outside of the Super Bowl loss, of course, in '95. But yeah, that would be my best and worst.
All right, so my best is, I talked to these guys beforehand, and I said let's try not to copy off of each other, but my best is the Colts game as well. But I'm not going to elaborate on that. Also, I will tell you that my friends put champagne over my head. Because I was one of the few Steelers there, and champagne does burn your eyes, but it burns so good. So I'm going to talk about another game that's a whole lot more recent, and it's Troy Polamalu catching that interception and going all the way. And it was just awesome. And there was about 5 or 6 guys in my basement, and there was Steeler fans only on that night. And we jumped in a scrum, and it was like we were on the mound celebrating the fact that the Steelers were going to the Super Bowl. And somebody either caught me with an elbow or a fist, and these all people like me. There's no one's mad at me here, and dropped me to the ground. And I felt like Roger Dorn in Major League when he gets punched and then he just gets back up and starts celebrating. That's exactly what happened. I walk upstairs and I'm holding my eye, and I went to get ice on it, and it's starting to lose some color. And they're like, "Oh my God, what happened?" I'm like, "I just got punched in the face." My wife's like, "What did you do?" I'm like, "Nothing. We were celebrating, and I caught something, and nobody had a clue who hit me. No one knew because we were celebrating." And that was the only time that I got hit in the face where I'm like, "This hurts so good. I love it." I mean, I love the feeling. Now,
was it your wife?
No, she was not. She was actually upstairs. So she did. She was not, but she has plenty of a reason to probably drop me. So that's fine. Plenty of reason. Now the worst was one I was in the stands for too, and it was the end of the '97 season. It was 1998. They were supposed to beat the Broncos. Cordell threw interception after interception. I was in the end zone watching those interceptions, and it was just it was absolute torture to watch them lose that game. And wow, I got to tell you, they were that was a team that the Steelers could have won that game, should have won that game. And I understand Tony mentioning the Patriots games, and I agree with that. They were favored, but the Steelers were heavily favored in this game too to beat the Broncos, and it just didn't happen. And we saw that the next 2 weeks later that the Packers were right for the picking, and that would have been really nice. So with that being said, there you go. Those are our best and worst moments. Tony, what are your thoughts on that Denver game?
Oh, I was going to say, it goes back to what Shannon said earlier about Jimmy G. I mean, who was the better quarterback in that game? It was John Elway, and that was he proved to be the difference. So yeah, that you really need that when it comes to the big games. That quarterback makes all the difference.
Absolutely, and we saw it. And then 2001. I want to elaborate on Tony's 2001 game that actually happened in 2002. They knocked out Tom Brady in that game. Tom Brady didn't beat them in that game. It was Drew Bledsoe that beat them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't realize that. And you're thinking, all right, you knock out Brady, you have it. And you just didn't. And I'm never going to forget.
Special teams killed him.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm never going to.
Special teams. Yeah.
I'm never going to forgive Troy, not Troy Brown, Troy Edwards. For going out of bounds there, and Troy Brown got another chance and took it all the way back. Mm-hmm. So, and that was in my end zone too. and I remember just watching that because I was in the 200 level, like 225, and fairly in the middle of the end zone, and watching it, I was like, oh, yeah, that was a rough drive home. So, but here's the thing: the Steelers, and I actually thought that that there would be more, but the Steelers are 8-8 in AFC Championship games, but they've played more than anybody.
Mhm.
They've played one more than the Patriots as well, and the Broncos have played a lot. The Broncos are kind of money in the AFC Championship game. They've only lost twice, which is kind of hard to believe how well they've done in the AFC Championship game. But you're really interesting. And the other team to talk about, the team with the longest drought of not making the AFC Championship game, and they've never won one, and it's the Cleveland Browns. So take that to the bank. There you go. And would you believe there's another team that has the second longest drought in the AFC Championship game? And if I'm not mistaken, it's the Miami Dolphins. Have not been in one in a long time, since 93, I believe.
That's amazing.
So, and the only team not to make one is the Houston Texans, but they're still fairly young.
Mm-hmm.
So, gentlemen, it was a great show. Had a lot of fun. We got to talk about the news and the Bengals and the Rams, but we also got to throw in a whole lot of Steelers in there too. So thanks a lot for hanging out with a Hangover. The title tonight was Hangovers of Steelers Past. I'm changing the title as soon as I get off here, so that's not going to be the title any longer. We're going to change that title to talk more about what we talked about, and that is going to be the Steelers comparing to what system that they should be trying to employ in the draft, whether it would be more of a model of the Bengals, more of the model of the Rams, and not just the draft, but offseason in general. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. We really appreciate you hanging in here. Tony, Shannon, we need you to do 3 things, my friends, and it's pretty simple. Be safe, be true to yourself, and always be behind the steel curtain. And just when you think you've got all of the answers,
we keep changing the questions.
All right, we love you, Steeler fans. We love you, Steelers Nation. We love you, BTSC fans. And rest in peace to the great Dr. Johnny Fever, who passed away yesterday. Howard Hessman at age 81. One of the reasons that I have a headset and a microphone, because he was actually a DJ in real life, and he was great on that show. So I got to tell you, one of my idols passed away yesterday. RIP to Howard. So with that being said, we love you, Steeler Nation. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great 7 days. We will be back hungover once again. Talk to you later.